for your pledge of $120 this evening, we'll be happy to send that along for as our way of saying thank you, and you can enjoy the memories of Vermont for years to come with your family and friends. We also have some other thank you gifts that we'd like to remind you of briefly. At the $60 level, we have the VHS of the Northern Railroad's program you watched earlier. For a pledge of $90, we will send you a set of Tracks Ahead mugs. And for a pledge of $120, you have the deal this evening, and that is the 2 Tracks Ahead mugs and the Northern Railroad's video. Those can be yours at any of those pledge levels. But right now, we hope you'll stay tuned, because going back, coming out of this break, we will be going to more railroading programs on Riding the Rails night here at Vermont ETV. We'll take a railroad journey up Pike's Peak. So I hope you'll stay tuned for that. But right now, there's still time for you to go to your phone and make that pledge of financial support here at Vermont ETV. It's all so very important to you. Your viewer support is important to us. And by doing so, you let us know that TV worth watching is indeed TV worth paying for.
By becoming a member, you make our programs possible. Thank you. Volunteers will remain by the phones during the next program to take your pledge. If you prefer to pledge by mail, send your check to Vermont ETV at either our Colchester, Vermont address or to the Public Television Association of Quebec. This is Vermont ETV.
Pike's Peak, America's most famous mountain. Lieutenant Zebulon Montgomery Pike first saw the peak on the afternoon of November 15, 1806. He was not the first to see it. He attempted to climb it, but did not reach the summit. Incredibly, railroad trains now carry sightseers to the summit of Pike's Peak, and have done so since June of 1891. In the 1930s, the Depression made the Cog Railroad's depot a quiet place. Although fancy touring cars seldom bring passengers anymore, that same depot still welcomes arriving passengers. There's an air of excitement as passengers arrive at this quaint 1891 building and purchase tickets for the ascent of America's most famous mountain. A word from the dispatcher, and our train is ready to leave. The Manitou and Pike's Peak is a cog railway. Our train can climb 25 feet for each 100 feet it moves forward. An ordinary railroad train has difficulty climbing 4 feet in that same distance. The cog system used by our railroad is called an Abtrack, named after Swiss engineer Roman Abt, who invented it. The offset teeth cut into a center rack rail mesh with gears called cog wheels under our train, providing all the propulsion. The outer rails are just used to balance the train. Cog railway switches have many moving parts. Our train climbs through the Pike National Forest. With 1,400,000 acres, this forest is larger than the state of Delaware. It's the 3rd largest in Colorado and includes many historical and recreational sites. The distance from the depot is marked on mileposts along the track. Our train arrives at Minnehaha, the location of a passing siding by which we will get by the first of 2 downhill trains we will encounter, as this is a busy railroad. Our conductor throws the switch that will allow the trains to pass. The passing sidings were not built until 1976. Sharp-eyed passengers spot Minnehaha Falls. Those same falls appear on this historic photo amid the few summer homes once built on the 35 lots here. Established by a Nebraska professor, the Alpine Laboratory once conducted research in high-altitude flora. Meanwhile, the downhill train has arrived, and we can again continue our journey to Pike's Peak. Today, it is hard to believe that cabins, a laboratory, and even a hotel, the Minnehaha House, once graced these hillsides. Today, a water tank that once quenched thirsty steam engines is all that remains. At Son of a Gun Hill, our train climbs at 25% grade. It was named by steam locomotive firemen who had to shovel a lot of coal to climb this hill. Next to Ruxton Creek are the remains of a small cabin. Years ago, hikers were allowed along the railroad, and this cabin's last use was as a refreshment stand. The spire on the right is Eagle's Roost, while on the left is Castle's Dome. Together, they form Hell Gate, the only natural gateway to the summit of Pikes Peak. Thomas Palsgrove, shown here with his wife Nettie and children Harry and Mary, built a one-room cabin at the head of Engelman Canyon in 1882. Intending to run cattle, Thomas also sold refreshments to weary hikers, and by 1884 had opened a hotel. The hotel became popular and was expanded to 15 rooms. The railroad and the siding it built contributed to the hotel's increasing popularity. A small station included a refreshment stand and post office. Closed in 1916, it was damaged by fire in 1922 and razed in 1926. A water tank remains to mark the spot. The ruins of two cabins mark the beginning of Ruxton Park, a former town site. Lots sold for $25 to $200. Still inhabited, it is home to caretakers for the Colorado Springs watershed lakes and the oldest hydroelectric plant west of the Mississippi. The town was developed by Thomas Palsgrove of the Halfway House. A settling basin was built in the early 1900s. Water from this basin travels to the hydroelectric plant across from the railroad shops in Manitou Springs. The caretaker's driveway is 60 miles long, discouraging quick trips to town. At mile 4, we can see the path of our tracks on the big hill, high on Sackett Mountain. Mountain View is the longest straight track on the railroad, 3/4 of a mile. An old railroad coach rests here as a shelter for track workers and hikers from the Bar Trail. The offices of the Pikes Peak Daily News stood at Old Mountain View, a little downhill of the present location. Passengers' names were gathered on the uphill train. By the time the train returned downhill, an edition of the paper with these names was ready to be sold. Steam locomotives once took water at Mountain View, and an operational water tank remains here. Each autumn, the bright green leaves of aspen trees change to brilliant shades of yellow and orange. A member of the poplar family, they are often called quaking aspen after the shimmering of their leaves.
And if you'll start to look in the valley below us to the 16th side of the train, you'll see a large group of rocks. You are now looking upon the Lion's Den, and as I just mentioned, that was as high as Lieutenant Pike and his expedition made it.
At Grecian Bend, our train begins its climb up the track that will take us above Timberline, track called the Big Hill. Lake Moraine is the first of 7 lakes that are part of the Colorado Springs watershed.
Officially cross over into the western slope of the mountain. Just before we do, I would like to point out the pyramid-shaped profile of Mount Oldmont-Gray right across the valley from us, the second highest mountain along the front range of the Rockies. It is also called the Calendar Mountain because of its height, 12,365 feet above sea level.
We will meet another train here at Windy Point. First, the work train arrives to clear the main line for our train. Years ago, to save the slow steam-driven trip to work, the section foreman, his family, and the section crew lived in this stone building while maintaining the track. You may have noticed a problem. 3 trains need to pass, and only 1 siding is available. A very clever dance of the cog trains allows all 3 to go their way. The work train enters the siding, and our train appears. Uses the lower switch to return to the main line, downhill of our train. The downhill train arrives and uses the siding to pass both our train and the work train. Our train continues uphill, and the work train returns to replacing ties. Extraordinary alpine views are everywhere as the breeze acquires the chill of altitude. This is Pike's Peak granite, broken into small pieces by the freezing of water that has seeped into the porous rock. Our conductor points out a small spot out there in the field. A pump house and reservoir supplied water to the tank at Windy Point. An employee carried coal from the track to fire the boiler that pumped the water. Along with room and board, he received $1 a day. The original Windy Point tank no longer exists. This was the highest water tank on the railroad, enabling the thirsty steam locomotives to reach the summit. Marmot, a small animal, is often seen by passengers above Timberline, as are Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep. The saddle between Pikes Peak and Sackett Mountain features views of the mountains to the west and Colorado Springs to the east. Timbers stop wagons from sinking into the mud on an old wagon road remind us that there are other ways up. Dr. Edwin James was the first to climb the peak in 1820. Julia Holmes was the first woman to climb it in 1858. Hiking the railroad was popular, but is no longer allowed. Fred Barr owned the Burro concession on Mount Manitou and built a new trail to the summit between 1914 and 1918. Years before, Zalman Simmons rode a burro to the summit and was convinced from his discomfort to build the Manitou and Pikes Peak Railway. Simmons also manufactured mattresses. Horses were used as well as burros. Huntley and Carlisle operated carriages to the summit from the Colorado Midland Railway Station in Cascade. This became the Pikes Peak Auto Highway in 1950, a toll road. At 14,110 feet, Pikes Peak is the 32nd highest in Colorado. It stands alone on the edge of the plains. Visible for miles, it became the symbol of the American West. We have arrived at the summit of America's most famous mountain. While some passengers head for the refreshments and shop of the Summit House, others pose for pictures, proving their adventure to relatives back home. Views of aspen-covered, lake-frilled valleys grace the south. Gold Hill and the mines of Cripple Creek appear to the west. The picturesque mountain town of Woodland Park and Rampart Reservoir are to the north. On a clear day, you can see Denver and even Kansas. The red rocks of the Garden of the Gods decorate the eastern view, and downtown Colorado Springs towers above the plains. A stone wall of the original Summit House remains. The new Summit House opened in 1964. Like the new Summit House, the old facility sold gifts and refreshments. It was originally built in 1882 as a weather station by the U.S. Army Signal Service. The weather station closed, and the newly remodeled building included a tourist hotel for 15 guests. Before 1900, a steel tower was built above the hotel rooms on the north end of the building. An additional charge allowed the tourists to climb even higher. Not as silly as it may seem, the view to the west especially was improved by gaining elevation over the wide, flat summit. The choir of Denver's Highlands Christian Church was first to reach the summit on June 30th, 1891. Since then, the summit has hosted every imaginable activity. In the pleasant fall weather of 1912, the Colorado Midland Railway Band entertained on the summit. However, our time on the summit is over, and we must begin our return. In September of 1889, grading began at the summit. A 4-foot November snow ended work above timberline. Pay was 18 cents an hour for grueling high-altitude labor without animals or machinery. track laying started at the bottom in June 1890 and was completed by October 20th. The first passenger train reached the summit on June 30th, 1891. Snow is a continuing battle for the railroad. Snow can fall any time of the year on Pikes Peak, but clearing the track in the spring is most difficult. From the earliest days, snow was removed by pushing a flat car plow into the drifts. The plow is backed away and men shoveled the snow off the car, a grueling job at these high altitudes. By 1973, snow removal still had not changed much. A diesel locomotive now pushed the flat car plow into the snow and backed away with tons of white powder, while men still suffered the task of shoveling that snow off. A hydraulic lift was added to dump snow off the flat car. The railroad built a rotary snowplow in 1952. The machine was not completely successful, and the old plowing method remained. No matter what the plow, very deep snow must be blasted down to a height within the plow's capacity. Explosives are tamped into a snow hole and detonated. By 1974, a new rotary plow built by American Snowblast had finally retired the flat car. The new plow resembles and works like a giant snowblower. Yet hand shovelers must still clear away ice frozen to the track. In 1976, the first twin-unit trains were delivered. These weigh 73 tons and are 124 feet long. Inspired by an 1893 carriage trip to the summit, Catherine Lee Bates wrote the words to the song we know as America the Beautiful. The last operating steam locomotive waits to welcome our train. Steam locomotives provided the power for the Manitou and Pikes Peak Railway for many years. 7 steamers were built for the railway. Cog locomotives are different from ordinary steam locomotives, requiring special rods to transfer power to the cog wheel. Manitou and Pikes Peak locomotives were small, around 25 to 30 tons. Locomotive 4 powered the last steam passenger trip in 1958, and no one expected to see steam again. But that locomotive was retrieved from a museum, restored, and ran again in 1980. This locomotive was built by the Baldwin Locomotive Works in Philadelphia in 1897.
On behalf of your engineer, Jim, and myself, I would like to thank all of you for riding aboard the Manitou and Pikes Peak Railway this afternoon. I hope you had a memorable trip.
Memorable indeed. As our train arrives at the depot, we have climbed to the top of 14,000-foot Pikes Peak and returned. Exhilarated travelers now return to life at lower elevations.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed the Pikes Peak rail journey. It's all part of our Ride the Rails night here at Vermont ETV. We started out with Northern Railroads. We went to New Hampshire steam trains, and we'll be going on to a winter holiday train in just a few moments. We hope if you're a railroad buff and you've enjoyed this type of programming all evening, this specially dedicated evening of railroad programming, that you'll go to the phones right now and let us know by making a pledge of financial support here at Vermont ETV. We have volunteers standing by here in the studio, and they're anxious to take your calls. And when you do, we'll be here with some wonderful thank you gifts to tell you about as well. When you do make that pledge of support, I encourage you to go to your phone and bring that MasterCard, Visa, or American Express. That way you can become an immediate member. It's easy for you, it's economical for us, and that way you become an immediate member here at Vermont ETV. And that's what we're here about this evening in the studio, trying to turn viewers like you into new members here at Vermont ETV during our very important March membership campaign. What we have for you this evening is Ride the Rails Night, as we've been telling you about. It's a whole program evening dedicated to railroad and railroad enthusiast programming. And coming up next, we have the Winter Holiday Train, which will also take you on a journey, a railroad journey through the San Juan Mountains and the Durango Pass. So I hope you'll stay tuned for that. Right now is your opportunity to go to your phone and make that pledge of support. It's very easy, it's very quick, and when you do, you'll know that you can help keep and help support the types of programs that you've enjoyed and watched this evening here on Vermont ETV. When you do go to the phone, at the $60 pledge level, we have as our thank you gift this evening the VHS of the program Northern Railroads, Vermont and Her Neighbors, the program you saw earlier this evening. For a pledge of $90, we have the set of Tracks Ahead mugs, and that can be yours for a pledge of $90. And our special deal this evening, for a pledge of $120, we have both the set of mugs and the VHS of the Northern Railroads video. So whatever you choose, make the commitment now. Go to your phone. Make our volunteers busy by dialing toll-free 1-800-639-8303.
All right, listen to this. Smuggler's Notch. Our volunteers are from Smuggler's Notch, and the numbers on your screen are not the only numbers that are important to us tonight. There are some numbers on the tote board and some numbers that represent our goal for the March pledge period. One thing that we'd like to do is to move this $61.85 up to about $9,000 tonight. That would get us to the $290,000 mark. Our total goal is $305,000. So if we can get up to $9,000, that'll take us to $290,000, well on our way. Thanks to you, Vermont ETV can produce programs like the programs on railroads that you've seen tonight, and we can also purchase the fine programs that you see week by week on Vermont ETV. Please become a member, a subscriber, if you will. You probably subscribe to magazines, perhaps to cable TV, to newspapers. Well, Vermont ETV comes to your way on TV. It's pretty much free the way you receive it, but it's very helpful for us if you help pay for the programming. Go to your telephone right now and become a member of Vermont ETV. Our phone number is 1-800-639-8303.
This is our very important March membership campaign, and our overall goal for the March campaign was $305,000. And so far, with only 3 days left, we have reached $287,000, and that's terrific. If you're included in that total and you've helped make that total, that's wonderful. You can go back and watch the rest of the programming this evening knowing that you've done your part to support quality programming here at Vermont ETV. But if you haven't yet called in with a pledge of support, I hope you'll take this opportunity to do so. Now, our volunteers are standing by. We're trying to reach that $8,000 evening goal, and you can help in that regard as well. So I hope you'll take the opportunity now and make these phones ring in the studio and put our volunteers to work. We're waiting for you, and we hope you will make that pledge of support. Now, we also have some thank you gifts that I want to tell you about, a very special one. At the $120 level, our thank you gift to you will be the box set of the 3 Vermont ETV locally produced nostalgia programs. Those include Vermont Memories 2, and Northern Railroads, the program that you saw earlier this evening. If you've enjoyed those programs and would like to have them for your own video collection, now would be the time to go to your phone, use your MasterCard, Visa, or American Express, set up an installment with our volunteers. But this is a way that you can obtain, for as little as $10 a month, you can obtain those 3 fabulous videos. And believe me, those are wonderful collection pieces that you will have and enjoy for years to come. And more importantly, they're exclusive to Vermont ETV. You can only find them here. So why don't you go to your phone now and make that phone call, 1-800-639-8303.
As you know, every once in a while when the cowbell rings, that means that we've gotten a pledge of $120, $10 a month. And certainly public television is worth that in your household, in your family. That also helps us as we move up on the tote board. We're at $6,305. We'd like to go to about $9,000 by the end of the evening so that we can then be at the $290,000 level during our drive. Folks here from Smuggler's Notch are taking a few calls, and they will be glad to take your call, too. They'll simply take some basic information from you. Very easy questions to answer: your name, your address, your telephone number to pledge. Certainly, you can use your Visa, your MasterCard, your American Express card. You can do installments if you like, if that would help you reach your pledge. But whatever you do, however you pay that pledge, go to your phone now, will you, and call us at 1-800-639-8303.
hope you also will believe that public television is worth supporting and will believe enough to get up and go to the phone and make that pledge of support right now. The phone lines are starting to ring, and that's terrific, but we still have some phone lines open, so I hope you'll call now and be the next one that one of our volunteers will speak with. Again, I want to remind you of a wonderful thank you gift that we have for you this evening. Your pledge dollars do help support some wonderful quality, locally produced programs here at Vermont ETV, and I can tell you a way that you can get all three of the ones that you've seen most recently here on Vermont ETV. There are Vermont ETV locally produced nostalgia set that includes Vermont Memories 2, and Northern Railroads. Now, these are exclusive to Vermont ETV. You won't find them in any video stores. They're only available right here, watching us this evening and making a pledge of support. And for your pledge of $120, we can break that down to $10 a month. You can use your MasterCard, Visa, or American Express, and we will get those out to you. And not only will you have the good feeling of knowing that you've supported Vermont ETV, but we'll send you a terrific thank you gift and one that you can add to your video collection in return. So why don't you do that now? And remember that when you do pledge your support, you've done the good thing of supporting not only those programs, but another program that'll be coming up tomorrow evening at 8 here on Vermont ETV, and let's take a look at that now.
A barn is a romance. It's part of the history of this country.
That's right. Get Barn again and explore restored barns from Maine to California. Examine the old world influences in New England and Vermont barns and unusual designs like round barns. It's a very resurrecting experience.
In the barn, it's a sign of independence, that you were your own employer. You ran your own life.
That's tomorrow night at 8 here on Vermont ETV, but right now I hope you'll take the time to go to your phone and make that pledge of support. Again, a reminder, always bring your MasterCard, Visa, or American Express. It's very easy and economical for you. But the first thing you have to do is decide to make that commitment and dial toll-free from anywhere, 1-800-639-8303.
We've had calls from Osable Forks, New York, and from Kirkland, Quebec, and from South Burlington just in the past few minutes, helping us get to this figure of $6,545, another pledge of $120. We'd like to move up to about $9,000 by the end of this evening, so that would take us and put us in pretty good shape toward our final goal. We'd be at $290,000 tonight. We're at 6665. By going to the telephone, you can make the tote board change as well as help support the kind of programming you've come to enjoy and expect on Vermont ETV. We have some thank you gifts for you at various pledging levels. At $35, the basic level, of course, it's the program guide. But at $60, we have the video cassette of the Northern Railroad special produced right here at Vermont ETV, Vermont and Her Neighbors. And then at the $90 level, 2 Tracks Ahead mugs would be yours. And the $120 deal, both the VHS and the mugs, our thank you gift to you for watching Vermont ETV and pledging your support, becoming a member of the Vermont ETV family. Telephone number is 1-800-639-8303.
When you call with your pledge of $120, we'll say thanks by sending you the entire set of Vermont ETV nostalgia videos. Vermont Memories 1 takes you back to the 20s and 30s, an era when times were tough, but life was so much simpler.
All the farmers would stop at the store and get their supply of groceries. It was too far to go to Rutland to shop.
Then hop on the rails and journey back in time to when the railroad was king.
The B&M had the Rutland Company in here. It was a main line from Boston to Montreal. It was a booming railroad town.
Train enthusiasts tell the history of Northern railroads and share stories of the good old days. Then step into the 50s with our newest special, Vermont Memories 2.
The 50s were absolutely
full of chrome.
Everybody had saved their money.
Everybody had to have one.
They wanted.
Huge engines.
Because it was the era of affluence.
Big cars, cruising, weekend sports, an old pastime becomes a booming business, and much, much more. Call now with your pledge of $120, and you'll be able to enjoy the memories of Vermont with friends and family for years to come.
hope you will call right now and take advantage of that wonderful thank you gift that we've been telling you about throughout the evening. This is one of the last opportunities this evening that you can call to take advantage of that thank you gift at the $120 level. I encourage you again that when you do go to your phone, please bring your MasterCard, Visa, or American Express, and that way it'll be very easy for you and very economical for us. Now, I hope you'll stay tuned because we've got one more railroad-related program coming up. It's the winter holiday train through the San Juan Mountains and the Durango Pass. So I hope you'll stay with us for that. But right now, there is still time for you to go to your phone and make that all-important pledge of support here to Vermonti TV in support of programs like the one you've been watching this evening. When you do, we have, again, some wonderful thank you gifts. Aside from the $120 three-box set that we've been telling you about, at the $60 pledge level, we have the VHS of the Northern Railroads program that you watched earlier this evening. For a pledge of $90, we will be happy to send you the Tracks Ahead mugs, a set of those. And for a pledge of $120, we'll send you our deal, which includes both the Northern Railroads video and the Tracks Ahead mug. It's all yours for a pledge of $120. But the most important thing right now is that you go to your phone, tell us that you've enjoyed this type of programming, but most importantly by letting us know that you believe TV worth watching is TV worth paying for.
By becoming a member, you make our programs possible. Thank you. Volunteers will remain by the phones during the next program to take your pledge. If you prefer to pledge by mail, send your check to Vermonti TV at either our Colchester, Vermont address or to the Public Television Association of Quebec. This is Vermonti TV.
Howdy, folks. This is Doc Carver. I want to welcome you to Durango, Colorado. Today is the opening day of the railroad's winter season. It's a season that begins with an old-time tradition, a visit to the station by Santa. Our train to Cascade Canyon is about ready to leave the station. So it's full steam ahead to that winter wonderland in the San Juan Mountains.